Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, I hope you would be fine and studying at home. I hope all of you are able to listen to me. Uh, Today we are going to continue the next topics, inshallah. But if the in the meanwhile, if we disconnect due to any reason, because sometime it happens that the internet is not working properly, but right now it's working, but there was a little bit problem, but now I think it's fine. So you will rejoin, okay? If it happens, so you will quickly rejoin. I will connect it again. Okay, now we are going towards the next topics, but before going towards the next topics, I would like to have a quick review from you about the last lessons that we were doing. Can anyone explain about the comparison of the topologies that we made last time? Which topology is better? Which one is the topology that you consider that it is basically a better topology? What's your opinion about it? Which topology is the most famous one, having more advantages? Please raise the hand and let me know the answer. Yes, Zulkaf.
Sir, mesh topology.
Zulkaf, why mesh is better? You consider it is better and it is famous one. Why?
Uh, because we can connect many computers, and and if any problem is there in any wire, the connection is not interrupted or lost.
Yeah, you are right. Your answer is right in this regard that we have got multiple channels to send data, multiple channels to send and receive data. That's true. But my question is that should we prefer it, or we have got some other options which is even better than this one? Because what will happen in the mesh topology, there are some disadvantages as well in the mesh topology. If you bring in your mind those points, you will be able to know that there was an important point regarding the cost of the mesh topology. We had mentioned this thing that when we are using mesh, so we need to connect all the PCs with each other. So of course all nodes are connected directly with each other, so it will be very costly regarding the cables. This is one of the advantage that we will have multiple channels, but at the same time we will have a number of wires. Just like you can see that right now we have 4 PCs and there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wires are there to connect them. So bulky wiring will be there, which is definitely not easy to install, and cost will also be there. So it is an option, but is there any other option which is even better than this one? Yes, please raise the hand. Economical, cost effective, easy to
Star
maintain.
topologies.
Star topology. Okay, can you explain, can you elaborate what are the reasons behind?
It is easy to upgrade the switch or the hub when it is required, and setup can be done easily, and modified easily. It is easily troubleshooted, and in
Yeah,
case any node fails, it can be replaced
good, good, all the
without
points are
affecting
good.
the others.
Good. Means that if you want to change the switch, it is quite easily possible. Adding and removing nodes means you want to add a new node, or you want to remove a node. It is quite convenient. You will take one PC, install it at some place. You will configure it, and you will take one wire attached to it, and go and attach the second end of the wire to the switch. So adding and removing node is also very much easy. So if we compare the advantages, the benefits of the star, so these are much more benefits, easily upgradable and easy to troubleshoot, easy to find out the errors. And even if a node fails, then it is quite convenient for us to find out, and there isn't any effect over the whole network when a node fails. So Zulkaf's answer was also correct, but when we are comparing the advantages, so we have to find out the best one for a specific situation. So mesh will be used over there where we don't want to have any single problem, and we have enough budget to have wires, and we have enough human resource to manage all the things when we will have multiple wires when we are installing for the mesh topology, and we want to have a much more speed even than the normal network speed, so that we should have multiple channels for the data communication, then we are going to take mesh topology. Otherwise, the star topology is the best option. It has more advantages, and those advantages are basically have got that edge that we should prefer. And normally, and another point that I asked, that it is also the famous one. If you make a survey in different organizations, small or medium or large organizations, you will be able to see that in the local area network, they prefer star topology. They prefer star topology to have star topology. Okay, now we should move towards the. We had made a comparison for this as well in our last classes. If you see, we had made a comparison, and we had made different comparison, star and ring comparison of the star and ring we made, and then star and bus comparison was there. Star and bus comparison was there. Star and ring, bus and star comparison was there. Similarly, ring and bus comparison was there. So these were the three types of comparison that we did last time. Now we need to move ahead towards the next topics. What is the role of the telephone lines when we are making a network, or we want to connect outside our network? What kind of role is there that a telephone line can play? This is the thing that we need to understand over here. This is very important topic in this regard, that telephone lines are basically the older technology. Every country has got a public switch telephone network called PSTN. It is a generalized name. PSTN is the generalized name. Every country will have the PSTN, just like I give you the example. Every country's own PSTN will have some specific name, just like over here we have got Oman Tel. Similarly, we have got PTCL in Pakistan, British Telecom in England, America Online in US, American Telecom. So these all are the different companies owned by the public organizations, means the government organization, and the government spread a network of the telephone lines. Even before the advancements in the digital technologies, just like the computer systems, even when these computer systems were not there, we did not have that much desktop or laptop computers used as commercial level or for the business purpose. Even at that time, we had the public switch telephone network, just like we had PTCL in our country, in Pakistan, and in different countries, they had their own public switch telephone networks, in which we had a technology called voice band. What does it mean? What is basically meant by the voice band? Voice band means where we used to communicate voices with each other. We used to have communication over the voice communication was there, and it was bi-directional simultaneously, means it was full duplex communication. Full duplex means that both can send and receive data at the same time, send and receive data at the same time through a single channel. So every country has got a public switch telephone network. So how we can use that public switch telephone network to manage the wide area networks? Now we are concerned with the wide areas, because inside the organization you would have some local area network, but we want to connect your network to outside. So how you will connect? Because outside you don't have any cable outside of your organization. You don't have any cabling system out of your organization. What are you going to do? Will you make your own network outside on the roads? No. you will see that what type of cables are already available outside. So you will find that the priority was given to the public switch telephone networks because every country has got a PSTN. So what we used to do, we used to use those telephone networks, which were basically a voice oriented telephone networks having calls over the telephone in the form of voice, and we used to use them for the communication outside. We used to convert that specific communication for the computer systems as well. Nearly the entire telephone network today uses digital technology, but at that time, we used to have even analog technology, purely analog technology in the form of analog wave. There used to be analog wave to transmit data, but nowadays you will see that we have digital telephone lines even, which are digital in nature. Telephone sets are digital and the telephone lines are also digital, which are sending the data in the form of bits, in the form of zeros and one. Okay, so nearly the entire telephone network today uses digital technology, with the exception of the final link from the local telephone company to a home, which often is analog. Still we have the local telephone companies which are there, they have analog systems as well. So there is basically combination of analog telephone lines and the digital telephone lines. In both the cases we can use these telephone lines to connect outside of our network, to go over the wide area network. To go over the wide area network we can use this telephone network. So how it is done? This is the very important thing that we need to understand over here. Telephone network is, you know, that it is basically integral part of the computer communication. In the beginning, we did not have the Wi-Fi directly. We did not have the advanced technology. So what we used to do, we used to use the dial-up modems, and we used to connect our telephone network with it, so that we may have some good communication over the internet, and we can send and receive data over the internet by connecting to the internet using our dial-up connection through the modem. Data, instructions and information are transmitted over the telephone network using dial-up lines or dedicated lines. Basically, when we are using telephone lines, we have got two types of lines. Either it will be dial-up line or it will be dedicated lines. There is a difference between them. Dial-up line will be basically a line which is, so hence this is number one and this is number two. So these are basically the two types of lines which are available today for us. Dial-up lines are normal telephone lines, whether these are analog or digital, normal telephone lines. Dedicated lines are specific telephone lines with the capacity to make digital transmission over the telephone lines that we use for the internet connection. Now we are going to discuss both of them, the dial-up connection as well as the dedicated connection. What is basically the difference between them? But before going toward that thing, I would like to share a video over here with you, so that we may have a discussion about basically what is basically going to happen. The internet. Okay. Just please see, then I'm going to explain some points. Is a vast network that allows computers around the world to communicate and share information. Huge amounts of information in the form of words, images, sounds, and computer software are transmitted through the internet. The internet links computers mainly by the telephone system, through copper wires, optical fibers, cables, or radio waves. Access to the internet begins with a computer linked to the telephone lines through a device called a modem.
Special software is needed to convert computer files into the type of signals that can travel through telephone wires. The signals are then launched into the phone lines through the modem. The phone lines lead to an internet service provider or a commercial online service, which act as a conduit to the internet. Computers break the message up into packets, clusters of 40 to around 1,500 characters. Each packet, individually marked with its destination, is then sent through a series of computers called routers that direct the path of the packet. Each router examines the packet to see where it's headed and sends it along the best path to its destination. Packets from the same message may take different routes to reach the same destination. The packets eventually all arrive at the same place and are pieced back together into the original message.
Okay, so afterwards you can see over here that basically what happens that we are going to convert the digital signal of computer system, the digital data of the computer system, into analog format. Why? Because telephone lines are analog telephone lines. So we need to convert that data into analog format using dial-up modems. So basically what happens that the dial-up modem is basically the device which has got two functions, modulation or demodulation. When we are converting from digital to analog, we are basically applying modulation. Why? Because we are converting it from the digital to analog. And when we are converting it from the analog to digital, then we are applying actually the demodulation. Hence, this is basically the job that is performed by a modem. So while connecting, you can see in this diagram that when we are connecting to the telephone line, we will not connect it directly. The computer system will not be connected directly to the telephone line, but through a dial-up modem. We will need a dial-up modem, and that dial-up modem will basically convert our digital signal into analog signal, and then it will be transferred to the telephone network, and we will be able to use that particular telephone network. Why we are doing this? Because telephone network does not support a legacy traditional telephone network, which is analog in nature. It does not support, basically, it does not support the transmission which is in the digital format. Okay. So now we need to understand basically what is actually going on over here in the dial-up network. What we have to see, what is basically the dial-up network, what happens in the dial-up connection. Dial-up connection, when we are making connection through the dial-up modem. So dial-up modem is basically the primary devices which plays an important role over here. A dial-up line is a temporary connection that uses one or more analog telephone lines for communication. Normally, we use one telephone line, but if we consider that we want to have another backup for making connection, if some problem is there with one line, so then we can have more than one. A dial-up connection is not permanent. You connect it. Normally, what happens? You are using your telephone. Normally you use your telephone, but you want to connect to the internet or outside wide area network, then you are going to connect it. That's why it is called dial up, because you, every time you dial, in this video that I shared with you, you listened one voice. Basically when we dial, there is a voice of a whistle that shows that we are going to dial a network. Just like when we dial a telephone, what happens? You listen a ring. You listen a ring that your call is going to somewhere. Similarly, when you call over the telephone line, when you listen a voice, similarly you listen a voice when you dial using a dial-up modem. And where are you dialing actually? It is very important thing where you are dialing. Normally you dial to a ISP, internet service provider, with which you want to connect using telephone line. So when we were students in the school, At that time when Wi-Fi was not there, it was not used as at commercial level. We used to connect our home PC using dial-up network. We used to purchase the hours of the internet from the PTCL, and we used to dial our telephone, a number from our telephone to the PTCL, and PTCL used to connect us with the internet. A dial-up connection is not permanent. That's why it is written over here. Why not permanent? Because when you are connected to the internet, at that time you cannot make any call. So of course, when you need to make a call, you will disconnect the internet. You will disconnect your connection that you have made with the PTCL or with any public switch telephone network that you are using, and then you can use your telephone for making calls. And when you are making call, at that time you cannot use your telephone for making internet browsing, because at that time you are not connected to the ISP through the telephone line. Using a dial-up line to transmit data is similar to using telephone while making a call. This is very important. We are using actually a voice band, as I have mentioned over here. It is a voice band. Voice band is basically created, it has been created for the voice transmission, but we can use that voice band for the data transmission as well, where we are sending and receiving images, text, and other data. So in those days when the analog traditional analog telephone networks were there, so the internet connection, when we are making the internet connection using dial-up network, so it used to be very slow. The speed used to be in the kbps, normally 45 to 56 kbps per second, kilobits per second. It was very slow, and we were not able to open the even images were difficult to open. At that time we used to open only text for the sake of study. That I am telling you my own experience. A modem at the sending end dials the telephone number of the modem at the receiving end. What does it mean? It means that the modem that you are using and the modem that is there with the PSTN, just like with the telephone network, just like PTCL, it will also have the modem. So we are dialing actually the number of that particular telephone modem. And when we will dial, we will be connected to it. Our computer system will be connected to it, and we are going to create a session. This is called a session. We will study in the layers of the model, which is basically a OSI model. So what is meant by the session layer? Session means when two devices are connected with each other for the transmission of data. This is called session. So when we used to dial, whenever we dial a telephone number of our ISP, so our modem dials it and we connect to that particular ISP. And ISP connects us with the internet cloud. When the modem at the receiving end answers the call, a connection is established and data can be transmitted. Keep in mind that sometimes it happens that the number is busy, the number is not responding, the ISP number that you are dialing is not responding, so your call will not be connected. It means you cannot connect to the internet. You cannot connect to the internet. So still those people who are using the dial-up networks, they face this problem that when they are connecting and the lines are busy and you are not able to have connection on that at that particular time, so what will happen? You will have to retry, and it charges a local call whenever you are dialing the dial-up network. Whenever you are dialing using modem to a dial-up network, definitely at that particular time, whenever n number of times you are calling, so n number of times you are actually going to have a local call charged from your telephone. Although you are dialing with the modem, but of course it will be charged as a call. So this is very important thing about the dial-up line. Now, if we come to the next things which are related to the dial-up connection, you will be able to see that dial-up connection, as I have discussed, that this is basically not permanent. You need to connect it. When either modem hangs up, the communication ends. It is basically, it happens normally that sometimes if the modem is not working properly due to any reason, due to any of the reason, because modems are either these are outside of the network, or the modems are built in the outside the computer system, or built in inside the system box, or in your system unit, built in on your motherboard. In both the cases, it may happen that the modem is not working properly, so you are going to face some problem with it. Your connection will be disabled. Your connection will be ended. Before going towards the next point, let me mark for the attendance. Okay, so we have got these students. Okay, so the connection will be ended if any sides of the modem hangs. Using a dial-up line to connect computers cost no more than making a regular telephone call. But of course, when you are taking a service from the ISP, so you need to pay to the ISP as well. Computers at any two locations established an internet or network connection using modems at the and the telephone network. You need to have only computer systems, and then you will be able to connect using a local call over the dial-up network. So I think this dial-up connection is quite clear to you. I'm going to share another video that you can see, and we are going to discuss some more points about it. Okay, if you see over here in this video that one computer system is there and we need to connect another computer system with it. Right now, we are not talking about the internet. We are talking about how we can connect with it using basically a dial-up network. If you want to connect them over the internet, both the computers, if they don't have any internet connection, we can connect them using telephone lines. But the problem is that telephone line is basically analog in nature, in our computer system is basically digital in nature. How they can connect? No, they cannot connect. So what we need to do, that in order to make a communication possible between our computer system and the telephone, we need to have modem, because our computer system will send digital signal. The telephone will not identify this signal. It will say, I am not able to identify the digital signal because I am analog. And when the telephone is giving analog signal, our computer system will not accept it. So what we need to do? We need to have a device between these two devices. We need to have a modem between them. It will perform the task of modulation when we are sending data from computer to telephone. It is modulation. Right now it is modulation. And when the telephone is sending data back to the computer system, then it will be called demodulation. So right now it performed only the task of modulation when we send data from the computer system to the telephone line. So how we can connect? Two computer systems will send each other data in the form of analog signal, but not in the form of digital signal. Now telephone will send analog signal, that modem will demodulate. The modem will demodulate this analog signal into digital signal, you can see over here. And the computer system will be able to understand. Means the dial-up modem is performing both the tasks, whether it is basically a task of modulation or demodulation. Demodulation is the reverse process, converting back to the digital signal. Modulation when we are converting from digital to analog. Demodulation when we are converting from analog to digital. So the roles are basically two roles by a modem. The modulation role and the demodulation role, but the data transmission between the telephone lines will always be analog when we are using a traditional analog lines. So basically, the modems are still used whenever we need to connect to the devices, like over the internet whenever we need to connect. I hope this point is now clear to all the students. Okay. Now, this is the case in the network when we are using a dial-up network. And I have told you dial-up network, you need to connect each time whenever you are connecting. Now come towards the, what is meant by dedicated lines? Dedicated lines are also a connection lines over the telephone network. Keep in mind, we are talking about the telephone network. What do you mean by the dedicated lines? Dedicated lines, of course, we are talking about dedicated lines over the telephone network, because right now the topic that we are studying is basically the communication over the telephone networks. We have studied the dial-up network. Now we are going to discuss about the dedicated lines. As the name is showing you, what is meant by dedicated? Dedicated line is a type of always on network connection, on connection that is established between two devices, communication devices. Unlike a dial-up network, as I had told you that the dial-up network is not permanent, but this is not the case in the dedicated lines. So in dedicated lines, this limitation has been overcome with the solution that we will have always on connection. This is very important thing. This is the key term that is used, the keyword, and is established between two communication devices, unlike a dial-up network where the connection is re-established each time whenever used. So this is the difference between the dedicated lines and the dial-up network. In the dial-up network, you need to connect each time, but over here in the dedicated lines, what happens? That you have a dedicated line. That's why always on connected. Always on connection, always connected. The quality and the consistency of the connection on a dedicated line will be, of course, better than a dial-up network. You don't need to reconnect again and again whenever you disconnect due to any reason. You don't need to dial a call, you are connected. So that is basically another advantage of the dedicated lines, that the quality and the consistency. Quality and the consistency of the connection will be there. Number one, always on connection. Number two, quality and the consistency of the connection will be there in the dedicated lines. And of course, it will have better quality. So in dedicated lines, we have some more options, that what are different types of the dedicated lines available. Before going towards them, I would like to ask you that over the telephone network, public switch telephone network, dial-up connection, about these all things, if you have got any question, please raise the hand if you want to ask anything. Yes, please. Is there any question? Nothing is there to ask? All the things are, what should I understand? All the things are clear to all of you, or you did not understand anything? What should I conclude? Yes, please, any of the student. Just give me the feedback about it. This thing is clear now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Good. Now we move towards the next thing, which is and some other detail about the dedicated. What are some more things in the dedicated lines? Okay. So if you see over here, businesses often uses dedicated lines to connect geographically on distant offices. That's why we are saying that even today the dial-up is used. Why? Because, for example, take one example. One of my branch office is there on one location, another branch is there on another location. I can connect these two branches using a telephone line. Without even using internet, I can connect using a telephone line. So I can connect the two branches of the office is using telephone line, and it will make a wide area network. What we are making? We are making a wide area network because one of the branch is going to be connected with another branch, and definitely outside the roads, we don't have the wires. How we are going to connect one branch with another branch? We are going to make a wide area network. So we are going to use some dedicated telephone lines. We will take service from some vendor who is there, who has installed wires outside for this kind of job, and it will be of course a private network. I have got one office on one location, another office on other location. I want to connect it. So basically it is a private network, and no internet is there between the two offices. We want to connect those offices for the transmission of data. We are making a wide area network. So of course that wide area network that we are making is basically we are using a telephone line to connect, and we will prefer the dedicated telephone line. Business organizations prefer dedicated telephone lines because I have discussed with you the advantages. What are the advantages? Established connection, always, all the time, and quality and consistency. I hope all these things are clear to all of you. Inshallah, we will continue this topic and its types, different types in the dedicated lines, inshallah, in the upcoming class. Thank you so much, all of you.